Hi, my name's Janine Watson and I'm an illustrator for Archaeological Services at Durham University, and today I've brought you to Raby Castle and Gardens, which is a gem of the northeast. It's set in around 400 acres of parkland and is absolutely stunning. So I'm going to talk today a little bit about the history and a little bit about why it's so special to myself and my family. Raby's walled gardens remain elegant and pristine, but this doesn't mean that they don't move with the times. Trails for children throughout the year mean that there's always something to do, and the new introduction of an open-air cinema means that people can enjoy the gardens throughout the day and evening. The walls are made from locally handmade bricks and were constructed with flues in them, like this one, so when heated, allowed subtropical fruits like apricots to grow. Many features of the original 18th century gardens still exist, such as this yew hedge, the rose garden, and the ornamental pond and fountain. We're now leaving the 18th century gardens and heading out into the parkland, now the home of deer and longhorned cattle, and the setting for the beautiful castle. The original manor of Raby was given to the Prior of Durham in the 11th century as a gift from King Canute, but it wasn't until the 14th century that the castle as we know it was built on the site. It was built by the Neville family, who lived there until 1569, when their lands were forfeited after the failed rising of the North Rebellion. In the early 17th century, Sir Henry Vane the Elder bought Raby Castle, and it's still owned and run by the same family now. Here we see the 14th century Clifford's Tower, the adjoining curtain wall, which leads across to Neville Gateway. Neville Gateway dates back to the 14th century as well, but was remodelled in 1785 by John Carr, so that a carriage could be driven all the way through the castle. The remodelling had a very interesting effect on the heights and floor levels on the inside of the building. The 14th century chapel tower is a perfect example of how brutal alterations can be, when you end up with something that looks distinctly like the Tower of Orthanc. This doorway lies opposite the Neville Gateway and is part of John Carr's alterations, which allowed a carriage to pass all the way through the castle. This window leads to another gem of the castle, the chapel itself. The beautiful private chapel, which contains fresco portraits of some of Raby's most famous inhabitants, one of which is a portrait of Cecily Neville, the Rose of Raby, Duchess of York, and famously mother of King Edward IV and King Richard III. Raby has had a relatively peaceful life as castles go, only suffering minimal damage during the Civil War when it was besieged by royalists in 1648. It's undergone both minor and major alterations and is a fascinating jumble of staircases and altered floor levels. This tower contains two gems of the castle: a fascinating and elaborate octagonal room which leads to a dining room so far from the kitchens that it actually requires lead-lined boxes to keep the food at the correct temperature, above which is the Baron's Hall, extended in 1840 by William Byrne. Finally we come to the kitchen tower, which also dates to the 14th century, and behind here is one of the best kitchens I've ever been in. It was built in 1360 and was used continuously for 600 years. There's a stunning array of equipment on display, as well as furniture, weights, scales and recipe books. And if you're a fan of cooking or baking, it's worth visiting for the kitchen alone. So why does my family love Raby? Well, we can stop and enjoy a game of cricket. We can take a walk along the grounds. We can go and visit the ducks. We can shelter from the rain under our favourite tree. Or we can watch for deer. And there's nothing our family loves more than a bit of history, a bit of nature, and then a trip to the gift shop and an ice cream. Thanks for joining me at Raby Castle today.